Okay, we're going to go ahead and set up our project with Firebase. I have a new application, 0 modifications done to it. We're going to flip into the Firebase console and we're going to make a new project. Let's call this Firebase app. Notice how it says Android, iOS, or HTML. I suspect in the future there'll be a little plus icon and it'll be Flutter right here, or all of these will go away and it'll just say Flutter. I highly suspect that in the future Google is going to integrate with Flutter very tightly, mainly because they're Google products. All right, so we're just going to create our project. That is going to take a few seconds, and it's going to sit there in the background, and it's going to carve out a little space within Firebase for our application. Once it's done, it'll say you can continue. Your new project is ready. Ta-da! And you are dumped into the Getting Started screen. Notice how you have iOS, Android, and web. That's right, you can do Firebase straight off of with JavaScript. So we're going to be working with Android because we've been working with Android this whole time, but the iOS instructions are also very similar. There's also authentication, database storage, hosting, functions, etc. You have stability, along with analytics and a whole bunch of different views. We're going to be working in the develop section, or what I call the get stuff done section. First thing we should take a look at is authentication. Here we have users, and there are no users because this is a new app. Then we have sign-in methods. These are the different authentication methods into Firebase. Let's enable that anonymous, and let's enable Google sign-in. This will be the name presented to users when they're shown public instances of your project. For example, the name will be displayed on emails and users receive after creating an account. Obviously, we don't want it to be this, so we'll say Firebase app. Let's save that. All right, now we have authentication in there, but we have to actually set this up. And what do I mean by that? If we click on the Android icon, notice how suddenly it wants more information, and this is a little bit involved. So we need to take a step back before we do any of this, and we need to go back here and we need to go to Firebase auth. Let's open this up. And notice how it says configure Google sign-in plugin, meaning before we can even play around with Firebase auth, we have to configure the Google sign-in plugin. So let's go to that. And here's our installation instructions for this. Let's check the README. Actually, let's go back to installing. Okay, I want to make sure there wasn't anything else in there. And it says Android integration. To access Google sign-in, you'll need to make sure to register your application. So if we go to register our application, it leads us, you guessed it, back to Firebase. So the step it's talking about with register your application is actually right here. So if you just get to the getting started and you click that icon, boom, that's what we're talking about. First things first, we need to install the package here. So we're going to do a packages git, exit code 0, so we pulled that down successfully. Now let's flip back to our directions. So after installing, and I'm just gonna grab this real quick just for giggles. So after we've installed it, Android integration, make sure to register your application. You don't need to include the Google Services JSON file in your app unless you're using Google Services that require it, which we will. So a few key prospects about this video. First off, we will be using the JSON file. Second, make sure your emulator has the Google Play Store in it. If you're not sure, open up your emulator and you should see the play icon there, or when you go into the programs, you should see the Play Store in there somewhere. You'll have to make sure the Play Store is installed and configured, meaning you have an account that's linked to it. You've seen the voidrum005 at gmail.com. That's just one of the dummy accounts that I've been using. I highly, highly, highly suggest you use a dummy account when you're doing development, or you'll notice your actual Android phone that you use on a daily basis will start acting a little different as you're pulling down pictures that you took on the emulator. Things will get weird, trust me. All right, so we've got that in. We're going to have to register our app. So let's flip back to Firebase. Just for overview, you just go to the Firebase and then you go to Android. Now we have to get a package name, which is the application ID in the app level build Gradle file. So we're looking for the application ID. And let's see if we can find this. Are we in the wrong one? Let's double check here. I always get these two confused. It says in the app level build Gradle file, we want application ID. There we are. So we want this com.example.firebase app. Just put this right in here. App nickname. If specified, the app nickname will be used throughout the Firebase console to represent the app. Nicknames are not visible to the user. So I'm just going to call this Firebase app because that's the actual name of the app. Debug signing certificate SHA-1 optional. It says see this page for information on using key tool to get SHA-1 hash for your signing certificate. What is this and why do you need it? If you're going to use any sort of Google sign-in service, which we are because we're talking about authentication, we need this hash. So let's go ahead and, if I can get the page to stay open here, we'll need to actually get this information and print it out. And this is what a SHA-1 hash looks like. If you're wondering what a hash is, it's just a one-way mathematical representation of a piece of data. What does that mean? Let's say if you were to assign everybody in your life a random number, and I don't want to say random, you're actually building like a profile on them based on the color of their pants, the size shoe they wear, blah, 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 blah. Each one of these would be unique. It's not wholly true, but for the most part, it's unique. Anyways, we need to use a program called KeyTool, which actually comes with Java. So if you don't have Java, you're going to have a hard time pulling this out. The reason why they use KeyTool is because, well, you guessed it, Android works with Java. So let's go ahead and grab this. And let's bring up a console here. Only one command is allowed. I saw this earlier and I had to do a little bit of magic here. You notice how it's saying only one command is allowed, but when you look at this, we have two commands, export and list. Let's just get rid of export here and see what we get. Needs an additional argument. Did not like that. Ah, that's why. I grabbed the example and I didn't grab this. So let's grab this guy. If you're on Windows, click this. Otherwise, Mac Linux, use that. Let's paste this back in. We just simply didn't have a path to our key store. And, well, it didn't like that at all. Having nothing but problems here. You know what? Gonna just do it that way. I'm just gonna paste it from off screen and boom, enter password and bang, there's our SHA-1 certificate. Or I should say our fingerprint. Let's grab that. And let's go back into Firebase. There it is in all its glory. Now, we want to register the application. And now it's telling us download this Google Services JSON file, and it even shows us where in an Android project to put it. It wants it under app, directly under app. So let's grab this. All right, so I copied the file. Let's go into our app. Make sure we're not going to put that in the source here. And let's see if we can paste it here. All right, there is our Google Services JSON file. in all of its glory. Let's flip back to the directions. Add the Firebase SDK. Project level Gradle. Let's go ahead and copy this, and it's saying add this to the dependencies. So let's go to our project level build Gradle. Here's our dependencies. Flip this back. Now for the dependencies on the app level build Gradle. There's our dependency there. And add this to the bottom. Copy that. And I'm just going to add a comment here so we know why we put this here. We've got both of those in. And it says, finally press sync now in the bar that appears in the IDE. We really don't need to do that because, well, we're not in Android Studio. Click next. And it says, run your app to verify the installation. And it says, checking to see if the app communicated with our servers. Let's bring this up. And I'm just going to attempt to run this on our emulator here. It may take a minute because we're actually adding quite a bit of functionality to this application. Now, while it's grinding away, just remember, if you don't have Play Store installed and configured, this will not work. So when you bring up your emulator the first time, the first thing you should do is open the Play Store and log in with an account. If you don't have an account, simply create one. All right, it's built the APK and it's shooting it out to the phone. Now let's flip back over to Firebase. And you can see it's just sitting there in the background. Now there's a bit of latency here, so don't panic if you get this screen and it's just sitting there grinding in the background. Eventually it will work. There we go. Congratulations, you've successfully added Firebase to your app, and then continue to the console. Now we have our Firebase app in here. We have com example Firebase, and it's got our nice little nickname. You can see there's one user in there, that was us, and we've got 0 metrics because nothing's been used. So we're good to go as far as authenticating with Google.